moving is never something, a decision you make lightly. I know that I've moved a lot. Sure you have too, but it's not something you just like, oh, we're going to move across the country or change homes or change school districts. But for us in our industry, we deal with it all the time. We're helping clients every day. We're talking to them about the move, whether it's just down the street or across the country. But I think sometimes people forget that we know that process too. Could you share a little bit about kind of your story about how you went and home ownership and kind of where you guys are now as a family?
Yeah. So we are in our third house right now. So the first property that I bought was a condo. It was a 1-bedroom condo in downtown Madison. It was super awesome when I was in my 20s. It was 900 square feet, and then I got engaged. I had a dog. We got a second dog, and the condo got really small really fast.
I bet, yeah.
We were only there for a year and a half, and we decided we needed to get something bigger. So we were looking for a house. We found a single family home. So we sold our condo right at that 2-year mark and moved into our house. And then we had a kid. We were there for a few years, and we just decided that we had done a lot of sweat equity improvements to the home, but it wasn't going to be our long-term home at the point where if we wanted to stay, we were going to be doing a major kitchen renovation.
Sure.
We kind of were talking about relocating the garage because we had a garage behind the house, and with the kid, we wanted to have a backyard. And the cost of doing those things, we would really, realistically want to be staying there to do that. So then we wanted to get a different house. So then we ended up moving into our current home, which we built. So we looked on the existing market, but we couldn't find what we wanted in our price range, and we had a home to sell. So, we're trying to figure all that out, but we just decided to build instead. So we had a little bit more timeline. We moved in with my parents for 6 months while we built, but it allowed us to sell our house, have the proceeds, and then be able to close on our new construction home.
Yeah, so you've kind of seen all the different processes there, and I think a lot of people have done that, but don't realize that their realtor, their partner in the process, has also been in their shoes. It was funny. I think what's most interesting about that process is every time the change happened, it was for a reason and a choice, a positive choice, right? New relationship and a new puppy. Great choice, by the way. Adding dogs, always what you should do. But then you guys decided to have a family, and so that changed the size of your family, what you needed out of a home, location, all those kinds of things. I think the reverse starts to happen later in life, and not even that much later, but as our kids get older, do we need a smaller home because they're not home as much? Or do we need a different style of home or a different area of home? That conversation is different because it's a change, right? And not necessarily a change that can tangibly see, but that something's evolving and going through. Can you think of ways that maybe people can start having that conversation, even just on a surface level, earlier, so that when they get to make that change, it's an excitement as opposed to a forced?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of, everything's moving so quickly. And I feel that in my own life too, that we just barely have time to just sit down and say, what do we really want out of life? What are our goals? I know my husband and I have talked about just starting to just meet, have scheduled time to meet.
Absolutely.
And talk about what are our long-term goals? What are our short-term goals? Are we, getting what we want out of life? Because I think it's daunting for people to think about moving, and so then they just say well, we're just gonna have to deal with what we're living in now. But if you step back and think about, okay, well, what do I want out of life? What do I want? Is it within 5 years? Is it within 2 years? How old is my child? Does it have to do with what school they're going to? And putting a plan in place.
Sure.
We do it for business, but we don't always do it for lives, and then we just get through it. And it's oh, where did all that time go? So thinking about moving is daunting, thinking about packing and all of your stuff, prepping for sale, but if it gets you where you want to be and you can get there that much faster, I think it's worth having those conversations. But I think making a plan is the biggest part of it.
I think what you said there is most important is being intentional and having a dream. So saying, I'm in a home that's this big right now, it meets X, Y, and Z need. But when something changes, either kids graduate and go off to college or are living on their own, or we want to have more pets, less pets, whatever it might be, what could our life look like? Does it make sense to build at that point? Great, we want to design our home exactly how we want it. Maybe it's smaller, but it's really customized to our needs because it's our place. So we want it to meet what we want. I think something we talked about a little bit is just when you're younger, you rent a lot. And so you're changing homes a lot. And so there's some kind of energy, right? You're oh, we're moving a lot. well, that house has a better kitchen, so I don't mind renting that for a year. Or that one has that funky little closet where it's not forever, but it's unique when I'm there. How do we start thinking about moving later in life as an excitement part of the journey again, as opposed to like, oh, I have to do it? I guess that positivity.
Well, I know that, with a lot of our clients that have been in their homes for 20, 30 years or 15 years, they just look at all the stuff that they've accumulated and it stresses them out. And so then they just can't even take the first step. So, we recommend, we have great personal organizers that we work with. Again, it's just making the plan and getting it started. And then, recognizing that it's not going to be tomorrow that your house is ready. It's going to take some time to plan. But is it worth it in the end to be able to get to that next place has less stuff so it's less overwhelming, or has a better layout so, every time you get out of bed, you're not frustrated with, oh, I wish we didn't have to go up and down stairs all the time, or I wish that we had a bathroom that was right off of our bedroom. But, we can't do it because there's just too much to do to get to that place.
Yeah, I think it's finding that place that's not only the right size and right fit, but the right feeling for you. I think we talk about it all the time. It's kind of sounds weird when people walking home, they're like, I just know this is the right house. It's true. It really happens. And so the opposite of that can happen in the same way. One thing you mentioned there is that it's not just us. It's a bigger team. Personal organizers. Are you talking to a financial planner and telling them that's your goal? Let them help you find the way to get there. You talk to a lender a lot in the pre-approval process, but they're your partner for life. Talk to them. Maybe they have an idea or a solution out there. Are there other people that people should be talking to, or other resources that can be used to help make that transition exciting again?
Well, I have a client right now who took a downsizing class online, and that helped them really get started and help. I think a lot of it is, you go think of Marie Kondo, and that was really popular. There's this personal attachment to your home, if it was the home you raised your kids in, or if it was the first home that you purchased, and so you just have that feeling of like, this is my first home. But going through that emotional process of being grateful of that, being able to let it go, and then embracing that it's going to get you to the next best place.
Definitely. So create the memories, make them, and take them with you, right? So even if we're moving off of this space into a different one, those memories are always there, and we can bring pieces of that old home to the new one with us, and then we don't have to forget them, but in our new home, it can be a part of it as opposed to the entire thing. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think if it's something that you've built a lot of memories in, recognizing that home can be that for the next owners too, and kind of embracing that if it's really hard to let go, that home is going to meet that same emotional connection for the next owners.
For sure. I think a lot of times when we talk to first-time home buyers, even folks who are adding a second or third home to their life, we're thinking about logistics. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, garage stalls, size of the lot, things like that. Very tangible, fit in a square box ideas. Outside the box, the more important, we get to dreaming, right? So what is something, maybe that's, if you got to pick anything to be in your future home, and it's not one of those boring, exciting things, but it's something that, would make life easier or more fun for you. Could you think of something that would be out of the box that you would want to have in a home?
Out of the box. I would love to have a much larger laundry room, or not laundry room, like mudroom setup with a dog shower and just more space for storage of things, and containing the mess to one zone or one room. Otherwise, I feel like it gets spread out kind of throughout the house.
Yeah. And to think that doesn't necessarily have to be a bigger space, just a more functional space, it sounds like, and also meets your needs. Regardless of the size of your family, there's a pet involved, there's you involved as a stress reducer. I think that's a lot of things people forget about when it comes to right-sizing their home or thinking about the final home or the next home in their life. What is something that's missing from your current home that maybe you don't need it, but it would help solve a problem or help bring you more joy in each day of that home? That sounds about right. I know for me, it would be making a kitchen that's just more functional so that multiple people can be in there at the same time working together. It doesn't necessarily need to be bigger, just the layout, more of an open space that allows it to be a space that brings everyone together. I think that could do a lot for people. So as people are transitioning into that stage of their lives, thinking about those things, it sounds like from what you're saying, write down those dreams and goals, have them tangible, have them focused, and get a team involved to help you achieve those.
Yeah, I have people considering, do I remodel or do I move? And there's maybe a lot that you can do with remodeling, but if it's size And if it's layout, often you can't.
Yeah.
So that's where you want to take the next step. But I think sometimes too, having that discussion with a remodeler and talking about moving so that you can compare those two options and the prices of those two options.
Sure.
Because remodeling disrupts your whole life too. You know, you're not packing up your whole house and moving, but you're not able to use your kitchen for 6 months. And you've got people in your house for 6 months. So if you're working from home, it could be as disruptive or more disruptive as prepping for a move. So if doing that remodel isn't going to check all the boxes of what's going to make your life better, then comparing that to moving.
Yeah. So I think some people are looking at that stage in the process is thinking about not only what you currently have, but if you could, what's outside of that traditional box that you would love to see in a home, and then most importantly, bringing a team in involved. And that's working with us as realtor partners, talking to personal organizers, financial folks, so that everyone has a plan and can make those dreams and goals a reality. Because at the end of the day, we all hopefully have dreams written down that we want to achieve, but to do it, it takes a little bit of time and planning. But we're here to be your partner, so let us know how we can help.